Hello and welcome to the English Box. Today I'm going to give you an introduction to the world of phrasal verbs. So what is a phrasal verb? Well, a phrasal verb is a combination of a verb and one or two particles. These particles can either be prepositions or adverbs. Some random examples of some phrasal verbs include to look up, to give in, to put off, to look down, and to run out. Phrasal verbs can be used literally or idiomatically. First of all, we're going to look at the literal usage of phrasal verbs. So many verbs in English can be combined with an adverb or a preposition to communicate direction. For example, he walked across the garden. He walked from one side of the garden to the other side of the garden. She opened the door and looked out. So she looked outside. She opened the door and looked out. And finally, when he heard the man scream, he looked up. So he looked upwards or into the sky. Another example would be to look in a book, for example. So that's the literal usage. What about the idiomatic usage? Consider the verb to put off. You can put a book on the table, but you can't put a book off the table. This is because the phrasal verb to put off is only used idiomatically. We would say to take the book off the table or to remove the book from the table. So let's look at the idiomatic use of to put off. It has at least 3 different meanings. They put off the meeting until Friday. Her little brother put her off whilst she tried to do her homework, and I put him off going to see the film because the acting was terrible. So what do these phrasal verbs mean? The first one means to postpone. They put off or they postponed the meeting until Friday. Secondly, to distract. Her little brother distracted or put her off whilst she tried to do her homework. And finally, I dissuaded him, or I put him off, from going to see the film because the acting was terrible. Now these pure verbs, to postpone, to distract, and to dissuade, come from the Latin base of English, and they form the more formal side of English. You can see that the Spanish translations are very, very similar to their English equivalents. However, the Germanic base of the English language forms the slightly more informal side of English, and you can see the translations of the German equivalents are very, very similar. We have geben to give, aufgeben to give up, abgeben to give in, and übergeben to surrender or to hand over. Now, phrasal verbs can be used very flexibly. We can mix nouns and verbs and prepositions to make new expressions and new phrasal verbs. And this happens constantly in the English language, and I'm sure it makes it very confusing for English learners. Just a couple of new phrasal verbs that I used recently. To man up means to be more courageous. And to geek out means to study a lot for an exam, for example. So here you have 2 examples of nouns and prepositions being put together and used as verbs. Shakespeare did it, why can't we? So, that brings us to the end of the video. If you'd like to subscribe, press the big fat subscribe button. Or if you would like to learn even more about phrasal verbs, then click on the respective panel. We have videos about tell, take, use, turn, bring, catch, come, and look, and they're all wonderful. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.